Hey, what is up guys? So today's topic is going to be, is Yu-Gi-Oh getting out of hand or out of control, or is the power creep too strong essentially? These all kind of fall under the same category of, these new cards that just keep on coming out in the game. We look at them like, wow, this is so amazing, this is the new best thing, and a lot of other players that have been playing the game for some time, they're like, wow, this card is so OP, and there's a lot of crazier things in the OCG, but like, it's crazy to see that Chaos Emperor Dragon is legal and people don't even play it, because like the other decks that are just, way stronger in the game, and because there's other support, and basically the way the game is oriented as far as I see the game, and feel free to comment on this, is majority of the decks that are in the game right now are basically, you either want to OTK or make a field that's so unbeatable that your opponent can't even play, or you're just going to make it so your opponent literally can't play by just making, like I said, a field that is either going to stun them or they just can't deal with anything. It's like, I make a first turn Artillery Beast, go for Felgrand, go for like Quasar, and like it's like, go ahead. It's like, I can't even really play. It doesn't matter what cards I have in my hand in this deck, I can't go over you unless I happen to open up with Exodia. And I really do understand your guys' frustration with this, because certain times when I play this game, I instantly lose like turn 1 basically, because either my opponent will just lock me out of playing the game. Like if I'm playing a deck that relies on spells and the guy goes ahead and first turn goes for an Artillery Beast, I can't even play anything regardless of my hand in that specific deck that I'm playing. I just literally can't deal with it, regardless of what deck it is. But I want to mention first off what the heck power creep is, to kind of explain, why these cards keep on getting more and more powerful. Now, basically, the idea of a card game essentially is to continuously sell cards, like in a physical, card game. If it's online, obviously they'll have like patches, maybe expansion packs that they sell you, but the game needs to make money. Otherwise, there won't be any creators creating content, because I'm sure you can't get a few hundred people just to continue making something for free and continuously do it for years and years and years, because it just doesn't essentially work out. Now, one reason why the cards get more and more powerful is because the newer stuff has to be stronger than the previous stuff. And it's kind of cool with Yu-Gi-Oh! One thing I really do like with Yu-Gi-Oh! Though is they support older stuff by releasing a few new cards that you can, pick up, and then you can use them in some of your older decks. You can make them stronger, which I think is really cool. Now, not every deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to be on the same playing field. Some players that are new to the game, they expect every deck to be, relatively balanced, whether it's Crystal Beast versus Light Swarm, whether it's Necros versus something like Ice Barriers. Some players, when they just jump into a game, they think, oh no, players have been testing, and the creators test the thing, they think the game is balanced. And like, sometimes that happens with fighting games. They're like, oh, you know what, I just played this, new fighting game, everything should be balanced, right? And that's usually not the case with a lot of games. Now, some games, yes, everything is balanced, but for this game of Yu-Gi-Oh!, this game is definitely not balanced at all. It probably will never be balanced in a sense where every deck can function at the same level as others, because there's always newer support and other things coming out for the game. But I just want to get that idea implanted in your head that the newer stuff will always be better than the previous stuff, and it's going to be done for two reasons. The first reason is that why even create new content in the first place if the older stuff is better or just as good as the other stuff? And in addition to that, they actually hit the stuff that was basically in the previous set. So think of it this way, whatever is the best deck right now, you come back in a few months and the deck will probably be hit by the ban list, whether they ban some cards or they limit some cards. The deck isn't going to be as strong as it was when it first came out. And in addition to that, the newer stuff is actually going to be much stronger than the previous stuff. And like I said, I understand your frustration with some of these amazing cards. Like this card, it absorbs a card, then it gains extra attack, and on top of that, it negates anything. It just becomes, in a sense where you look at it and you're like, wow, that's out of control. It's just way too good. But I think that the best thing to do in a game is not necessary to actually hit it. And I know some of you guys are like, wow, that's crazy. Now, certain things do have to be a hit though, like Frog FTK or any FTK essentially, in my personal opinion, needs to be shut down. Like, it's just dumb to make it so your opponent can't even have a chance to react. And I think that that's something that, Frog FTK was probably one of the most relevant decks that actually did very well, that did that very consistent. But with the newer stuff coming out in the game, like I said for the 50th time in the video, I understand your frustration, because people are like, oh my gosh, like Dark Law, everyone thought Dark Law was going to just completely wreck the game. Now against certain decks, yeah, that definitely does win. It can just be dropped, turn 1, and you can't even play the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! If your deck really needs the graveyard. But I understand the amount of craziness that's going on, because like now we have Chow Fang, it's like, oh, it comes out and negates any of the attributes that you used when you when I had made the card, and then you can make it immune to traps and spells, and it's just like everything's just like, okay, it's immune to everything, and you know what, it just negates your opponent from doing anything. Like, that's what a lot of the cards feel like they're doing in the game. And I wish I had a solution for some of this stuff, but I really feel like the best idea is not to nerf anything. So basically what I'm saying is to not nerf anything, because nerfing stuff actually is negative in a lot of games, and I think that the best idea is to buff things rather than nerf things, because what nerfing things is going to do is whoever has whatever deck it is, it's going to make the player very upset, because they're like, wow, I invested all this money into this stuff and it's completely worthless. Whereas if you keep on releasing newer stuff that's more powerful, which it already is going to be more powerful, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Basically guarantees that the newer stuff is going to completely dump on like whatever was there previously, in most cases. And that is because the newer stuff, like I said, it's going to be stronger, and the stuff that was like really strong before is going to get hit. So instead, I really feel like everything should just get buffed, essentially, other than nerfing everything and then making the other stuff, even like the newer stuff, even better. But I think that a lot of players, they're really upset about the way the game is going, because, like I said, it's basically you OTK or you stun your opponent where you can't play. Now, like I said, I wish I had a direct solution for this, because I can't tell Konami, hey Konami, stop using the ban list. Just like, you know, we'll just keep on buffing everything so that everything can essentially just get to the same level. Why would you nerf something then come out with something that's even better than it when the other deck does not need to be nerfed in the first place? But I'd like to know, what do you guys have as far as a suggestion for the game? Because a lot of players just feel like the game is just out of control, and with the way the Japanese have been playing it, is just like, let the game be completely out of control, let everything just be like legal, and just see how the game goes. And in a sense, like, it's kind of a cool concept, because then every deck can just like do whatever at any time, but then that doesn't guarantee the newer stuff to be like the best. And I think that that's one thing that TCG does not want to do. They want to essentially guarantee that the newer stuff is going to be so much better than everything else. With the OCG, is like, there's a little bit of innovation, I would say, with the OCG, with some of the other stuff, marginally, because I mean, if you guys look at what's topping the OCG, is pretty much just Necros and Necros and Necros, and then like, you know, in the TCG we just got Necros, and I believe in the last YCS 20 out of the top 32 were Necros. It just really shows you how strong, you know, one deck can be in the game and can completely just upset the game. When before, what was it? You know, it was like the Cleese and the Burning Abyss, and like before that it was like the Shadals were really good, and like everything that comes out is just so much more powerful. When the OCG, you see a lot more just random stuff winning, and it's due to some of these other crazy random powerful cards, but it does technically make the game inconsistent in a way where you can just lose to something random. And you could, you know, if you lose to it, you know, randomly just twice in the match, yeah, you'll lose, and then that deck might just go on. If it does it enough times and it gets really lucky, whether it stuns or just goes up for this really crazy combo and it works out, because a lot of innovation, I would say, comes from the OCG, because they have, like I said, these other like obscure cards that are so powerful that can fit into a lot of different decks. Well, we just don't have those cards. I mean, I know there's some powerful cards in the TCG like BLS, but you can't compare BLS with Chaos Emperor Dragon, or there's Ring of Destruction and just a lot more crazy stuff. But like I said, I'd love to know, how would you guys repair this game? Because I do enjoy this game once in a while, but there comes a point, I think, when everyone's, if you've played Yu-Gi-Oh! Long enough, where someone does something really stupid once, and you're like, okay, whatever, happens. And then you go in and you play like game 2, or you play game 3, and then it happens again, and you're like, wow, dude, this is ridiculous. So I don't think the game can be repaired in a sense where everything is actually buffed to where everything is equal. I would like that to happen. That's probably an unlikely scenario, because of, you know, power creep in the game, where, like I mentioned before, the stuff that comes out is more powerful than the stuff that was previously the best, not only gets nerfed, but the other stuff is better than it in the first place. So I think that that is a frustration that a lot of players have. But like I said, I want to know, how would you repair this game, guys? Would you prefer that everything gets buffed and, you know, nothing really gets hit by the ban list, except for with the exceptions like I mentioned with like the Frog FTK and that kind of stuff? Or would you actually prefer the game to slow down to like way back in the day, where we had a few like really insane cards, but there was no first turn, basically you can't play the game instantly? I mean, I remember Jinzo was a really powerful card, but you still had, what was it, Man-Eater Bug? I remember that card. There was Exiled Forest. There was a few cards that you could do to get around it, and it wasn't like you would just get OTKs in like the old days. I mean, there was, I mean, the first like huge push that I remember was a Cyberstein into like the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, the Mega Morph, but generally the game didn't orient itself around making it so your opponent can't play, and then, or you just OTK. It was more so just like you had a few turns, And that's what I really kind of miss with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is having a chance to play, because like I said, like there's so many cards where it just says like you can't play, or there's just like, oh, you can't use any of these effects, and like, oh, I'm immune to like everything. Like why are these things in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh? Why is Quasar so easy to make now in the game? Well, I know we haven't had it in the TCG, but guys, the new like Jet Synchron, especially with Nodin, is going to be absolutely crazy. But like I said, I'd love to hear how you guys would repair the game if you have these problems. If you guys think the game is perfectly fine, I'd like to actually know, because I don't find it too common that people actually think, oh, this game's totally fine, where we have Stratos banned, but Bryanak could go ahead and put that card at 3. And then we have like random stuff, like Bestiari's at 1, because Bestiari blows up back row. We can't have back row destruction, guys. Oh, Denko Saka though? Bro, that's at 3. Like, there's clearly things that are not right with this game, where any player that just basically understands basic concepts of balance in any game could understand that Denko Saka is a much better card than just Bestiari popping 1. And you have to actually, like, you know, summon Bestiari through the special summon to actually get its effect, or by a Gladiator Beast or whatever it is. I forgot. No one's played Glads in 5 years anyways. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Like I said, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below about other stuff, whether it's just like Konami's idea or mindset in the TCG where Stratos has to be banned, but Denko Seka, or... well, I mean, the searching doesn't really matter. I mean, we have the Shadow Mist, but it still does not need to be banned, in my personal opinion. But, you know, go ahead and argue with me. And I'd love to. I'll actually encourage you guys to argue with me, because then I can actually see your guys' perspective on things. But like I said, I wonder if anyone actually, you know what? Anyone that says that this game is perfectly fine, they like the way it is, you're trolling. Like, I guarantee it. Someone's going to comment, and then everyone's going to go off on that. So go ahead and troll. I encourage it on my channel. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. And like I said, I really want to know your guys' thoughts on how you'd repair this game, because I've talked to many people about repairing the game state, and like, I couldn't come up with a solution, and I couldn't, I didn't hear a solution where I thought, you know what, that would totally work, where, you know, we would just make it so the game was repaired into state. One thing that I thought was really cool that someone mentioned before was that each card would have a certain value. I don't know if you guys have played Call of Duty Ghosts, but there's a whole like and you pick a certain amount of perks. Certain perks are worth more than others, and I thought it was really cool to have the idea of that certain cards would assign a value. Like, there would be no ban list, but certain cards would have like a high value. Like, you can only run like 1 copy of this, and then like if you run 1 copy of this, you couldn't play certain copies of other cards, because you know, your essential, like, some cards are worth higher value. Like, you'd have to assign a value to each specific card in the game, and I think that would just be very difficult. But if they can make it work, that'd be kind of cool to see, just, you know, no ban list and just certain cards were assigned values. But anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Have a great day. Asian Ice signing out.